What's going on YouTube? So as you can tell, we're not in Kentucky anymore, but instead today we're in beautiful Utah. And our tool to explore this rugged and stunning terrain is none other than the all-new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness. And just like its Forester and Outback siblings, this Wilderness model adds a lot of capability, but to their smallest SUV. So is the Wilderness Crosstrek the ultimate tool to explore the actual wilderness? That's what we're about to find out. So let's start off this review under the hood. So we went ahead and popped the hood because the ultimate tool for tackling the wilderness, of course, is going to be having more power. And indeed, we do have that because we have the upgraded 2.5 liter boxer 4-cylinder engine. It's making 182 horsepower, 178 pound-feet of torque. Now we do still have the same CVT, but with different tuning for the Wilderness model. Additionally, we also have Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system. For Wilderness duty, we're going to get a little bit worse fuel economy, coming in at 27 miles a gallon combined. But there's a lot of enhancements we want to show you guys, and that's going to start with the exterior. So let's close up the hood and get into that. So when it comes to this next generation of the Crosstrek model, Subaru does have a lot of different versions of this. However, the Wilderness model is really going to be that top tier in the trim structure. It's also going to be the biggest departure from the rest of the trim levels. So let's kind of dig into that. I'll start with the styling. So first of all, you'll notice that this does have a unique look. This is going to be inspired by that same hexagonal pattern that you see on the Outback and the Forester. This grille has a unique shape to it. And you're also going to notice that we have a lot more cladding. It's going to extend up in a chunkier fashion and just give this a tougher look. And of course, overall, it is going to be tougher as well. Now, one thing you'll notice up here at the top is the anti-glare hood treatment. This again is going to be similar to Outback and Forester as well. And then as far as additional capability, I've got two things I want to mention. First of all, we do have a real skid plate, which is going to be underneath this model. We also have elevated ground clearance. So we're going to be looking at 9.3 inches of ground clearance, which is up quite a bit over the already really nice ground clearance on the standard versions of the Crosstrek model. Now, as far as some more traditional things, let's talk a little bit about our headlights. Just like every version of the Crosstrek, we are going to have adaptive full LED headlights as standard equipment. That's very, very nice. We also have unique fog lights for the Wilderness model. This is, again, that hexagonal pattern with that really beefy enclosure around it. Now, as you move around to the rear, you're going to see, of course, similar upgrades to what you had in the front.
Yeah, but before we get into some of those upgrades, I do want to have Drew go ahead and hop inside and let's see if all the taillight elements are LED. So we do have an LED brake light portion. We have an incandescent reverse light and an incandescent turn signal indicator. So this is the same taillight unit that you'll find on all Subaru Crosstreks, which is partially LED. 1 out of 3 elements is not bad here at Car Confections. And then if we drop down, let's start to get into some of those Wilderness changes. So we have Wilderness branding right here. As far as this lower bumper area, this is all going to be completely new for the Wilderness model. We have Subaru stamped into this, and it's going to be that rugged matte black that you see repeated throughout the vehicle. No exposed exhaust outlets for Wilderness duty. And I do want to mention your tow rating because that's a really important thing about this Wilderness. You actually have an increased tow rating to 3,500 pounds because they've added a transmission cooler for this model. So that's a pretty substantial improvement over the regular Crosstrek model.
Now moving on, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this whole area. There's a lot to say here as well. First of all, we do have exclusive 17-inch alloy wheels for just the Wilderness model. They're going to have this nice matte black finish, which I think looks really, really good with the overall cladding situation that this model has. The other thing that's, of course, going to add capability, though, is the fact that we have Yokohama Geolandar all-terrain tires. That's going to give you that extra capability you need to get over obstacles, as well as the fact that this is setting on a dedicated and special off-road tuned suspension. Now, of course, as we move on, we're going to see our Subaru Wilderness badging. You have a matte finish up here on the mirrors as well. And as far as the technology on board, you're going to have standard blind spot monitoring. You're also going to have heating.
All right, so here at the side, I do want to go ahead and mention your overall length. It's 176.4 inches long. And of course, you have your typical Crosstrek shape, except you're going to have a lot of those beefier cladding elements. A lot of it is going down on this lower panel right here. You also have Crosstrek branding in that yellow color, which looks really cool. And then coming up from that, we do have standard roof rails for the Wilderness model with some yellow accenting. And Subaru does also say that this can hold up to 700 pounds static. So that actually does mean that you can put a rooftop tent on the Crosstrek. Now, as far as safety systems are concerned, this model is also very impressive in this regard because you're going to have Subaru's EyeSight Safety Suite as standard equipment, which gives you all 4 active safety features on all the models. Additionally, you do have rear auto braking for a top-end model like this Wilderness. But guys, that wraps up the exterior design of this vehicle. Let's check out the inside. But before,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, on to the interior. First, as always, we'll take a look at the key fob. This is just your typical Subaru key fob, of course. It is a smart entry system. Nice silver accents on the side there. And to get inside, you're just going to grab behind the handle because there is a sensor, and that will open up the door. Now, take a look inside the interior. Just like with the exterior, you're going to notice the redesigned look of the inside, but with some special Wilderness elements. And we'll start out with one of the first things, the seats. So taking a look at these seats, these are going to be exclusive to the Wilderness because this is the only one that comes with the Softex leatherette. So what this basically is a very durable leather-like material. It's got this special texture in the inside, which means you can get it dirty, clean it off nice and easy. It also looks nice because it has things like our Wilderness branding kind of embossed up there into the headrest and that same color accenting running throughout. Now, as far as the seats themselves, a manual seat will come standard. We do have one of the only options on this Wilderness model, which is a power seat. But let's go ahead, climb inside, and take a look at all the other details. Now, even though this Crosstrek is a pretty affordable model, ultimately, they've done a great job with the interior. And let's take a look at some of those overall material choices. So as you can see over here on the armrest, we do have a leatherette material that's actually going to continue up through here in a color contrasting gray. And then as we move on, you're going to find some soft touch plastic running across the upper dashboard. Through here, you're going to have this gray finished plastic, which matches with what you see on the door trim. And you're also going to find some faux carbon fiber accents through here and on the door trims themselves. As we move down to the lower areas, of course, this is going to be hard touch, but everything in here does feel very solid and crucially very durable. Let's go ahead and fire it up. Now that's fired up, let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of the details. We'll start off with our gauge cluster. This is basically your typical Subaru style cluster. You've got that 4.2-inch multi-function display, 2 traditional analog gauges, but like with many of the recent models, some of the additional stuff you would find in a multi-function will be located up here in the top part of the main display, including some off-road measurements there. You also have things like your weather and, crucially, where you can turn on and off your X mode controls. Now, pulling back here, take a look at the steering wheel. Typical Subaru design, nice leather wrapped. We do have that special accenting right there to signify the Wilderness model, and it is manual tilt and telescoping. Now, we'll turn over here and take a look at our storage next. Opening up our console here, we've got a variety of wires inside and plenty of space to spare because this is quite deep. As you can see, plenty of space to fit a lot of different things, although we don't have our donuts with us today. We do have another little slot here. We got 2 cup holders right there, a 12-volt outlet, and then up here, here's something I really like, this nice large wireless phone charging pad. You can turn that on and off. It works really well, and even when you're going on rough terrain, and your phone won't slide around or anything because of the nice rubber lining. Now, pulling back here, let's take a look at the shifter. Traditional style shifter, pull back for drive. Bump over here to the left if you want to activate a manual mode, and you do have paddle shifters to go through some simulated gear changes with the CVT. Heading into reverse, let's take a look at our traditional camera here. As you can see, we do have active trajectory. We also have rear parking sensors and rear auto braking, excuse me. One thing I want to point out though, versus the Forester Wilderness and the Outback Wilderness, This does not have that front 180 camera, so you're not going to get that special view for use off-road or when you're just parking in normal day-to-day life. And then back behind that, you have your electronic parking brake with a brake hold. Now as we move on, over here on the side, you're going to notice that we have heated seat controls. Most Crosstreks are going to have the heated seats. None of them are going to have ventilated seats though. And as we move up here, speaking of temperature, let's talk about the climate controls. The bottom part of the display is mostly dedicated to climate controls. As you can tell, we've got a dual zone automatic setup. You've got the physical controls over here on the side, and then some of your other functions like adjusting the fan speed manually will require using the display itself. Also, physical controls for your audio system. This is the 7-speaker Harman Kardon system with 432 watts. Let's go ahead and give it a sample. Wow, I have to say we're very impressed by this system. Typically, this class of vehicle has pretty cheap sounding sound systems, but this is a really nice sounding sound system. Really fills up the cabin well, and it's very nice and balanced. But one of the biggest things really with this entire new generation of the Crosstrek is the fact that we have much upgraded technology. So what you're looking at, of course, is kind of the center of attention. It's that large 11-inch display. And we already talked about what's at the top and what's at the bottom. Right here in the middle is where the main part of your infotainment is going to live, the newest version of the Starlink system. Right now, what I'm in is wireless Android Auto. You do have wireless Android Auto and wireless CarPlay abilities. That's what that's going to look like. If I hit the home button there, I can kind of go into their system. As you can see, you've got a lot of different functions on here, but so you don't have to dig around through different settings, Subaru has also added a row down here at the bottom, which gives you the frequently accessed buttons. So this will turn on and off your auto start stop, your auto brake hold, and then you also have some drive mode control settings right there regarding your vehicle. So it's all very quick and easy to access and quite responsive. As we move up, you'll find a manual dimming mirror, and we also have a power sunroof up here. I do want to mention the fact that that is optional equipment. That's going to be packaged with the Harman Kardon sound system as well as the powered seats. Really the only major option package that you can add to this Wilderness.
And let's talk about the rear seat in this Crosstrek Wilderness. Now, like all Crosstreks this year, the space remains a very good part of this vehicle. We're sitting at 36.5 inches of legroom, 38 inches of headroom, which for this segment of vehicle is very, very impressive, guys. This is going to be one of the biggest offerings you can get. So certainly very good things going on here. Of course, I did bring my measuring stick all the way to Utah, and we're sitting at about 7.5 inches of knee space. I'm 5'9" for reference. The seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". My feet can easily slide up underneath of the seat, and it's worth noting the rear seats do not recline. That being said, we do have a nice fold-down center armrest with cup holders inside. And as far as other features, we don't have any rear vents, but we do have 2 charging USB ports, which is a very nice thing for this segment of vehicle. And I also want to point out these seats are very comfortable. Now let's check out the door trim. The door trim is going to be mostly made of hard touch materials. It's hard touch on the upper part and in the middle. We do have a leatherette pad for our arm to rest though, and we also have bottle storage down in the very bottom. And moving on to the cargo area, let's go ahead and talk about this. Before we do get there, you might have noticed that this vehicle is quite dirty. Of course, this is the Wilderness model. This is all about off-roading. So, of course, you got to get some dirt on the paint, that's for sure. Now, as far as the space is concerned in this cargo area, we're sitting at 19.9 cubic feet behind the second row seats. Then as a maximum, we're sitting at about 55 cubic feet. That does place it, once again, as one of the larger options in the entire segment. This is certainly going to be a very spacious offering for you and all of your family's needs. Now, I do want to just go ahead and fold those seats down. As you can see, they do fold 60-40 split folding, and they are completely flat with the floor. If I lift up the cargo cover here, you'll be able to see that. And I did bring my measuring tape here so we can see how much space there is behind the driver's seat to the rear of the cargo area. Let me make sure it's nice and straight. And we're sitting at 66 inches of length. But let's see how wide it is, because Subaru says this is one of the widest options in the entire segment and as far as cargo width, and we're sitting at about 39.5 inches of cargo width. Now, as far as other things to mention, so we have that cargo cover there, we have some lighting on the side. They also pointed out there's a cup holder in the cargo area, so if you're going to be just sitting and chilling in the cargo area of the Crosstrek, there's somewhere to put your drink, which is a very thoughtful thing. And then if we lift up the cargo floor, I might not be able to get it up. Actually, I did. There is your spare tire right there. Of course, important for any type of off-roading vehicle. You have LED lighting that shines down from here, and your tailgate is going to be manually opening on all versions of the Crosstrek. And finally, let's talk pricing for this new Crosstrek Wilderness. Now, you heard Drew at the beginning say that this Wilderness model actually sits at the top end of the Crosstrek lineup, so it's a little bit more expensive than the limited trim level by about $1,000 as a starting point. So we're going to start at $31,995 for this Wilderness model. Once we add that option package in, like Drew mentioned, this is the only option package that you can get on the Wilderness model. That's $22,770 plus our destination charge of $1295. We're sitting at a touch over $35,000 fully loaded up for this Crosstrek model. Now, if you're a smart shopper, the next place you're going to go to is carconfections.com/newcarquotes, because on there we have a tool that will allow you to be connected with local dealers in your area to get you the best price, as well as access to invoice pricing information. If you want to take advantage of that, a link is provided in the video description. And you're probably wondering, why is the car so dirty and why have I not seen the off-roading portion just yet? Well, Subaru does have a driving impressions embargo on this Crosstrek model, and that will be lifted on Monday, October 2nd. So not too long from now whatsoever, we will be driving this Crosstrek Wilderness, and as you can see, it's quite dirty, so I'm sure you won't want to miss out on all the off-roading and street driving that we will be doing on this model. So go ahead and mark your calendars for that, because there's a lot of exciting stuff going on when we drive this vehicle coming up a little bit later. But that's going to be where we leave off on this in-depth review of the all-new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness. If you enjoyed watching this video, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below, because by subscribing, you help get us invited to events like this, where we can come out to Utah and sample out the Crosstrek in its full glory where it's made to be. If you haven't given our TikTok and Instagram pages a follow, please go ahead and do that, as well as a visit on our all-new carconfections.com website. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.